begins quietly, not as a scream, but as a tightening in the chest that no one else sees. They learn to smile early, long before they understand why the smile is necessary. They learn that if they look calm, people stop looking deeper. If they say, "I'm okay," the world nods and moves on. So they become what the world prefers: steady, composed, unbothered. But inside, there is a small, trembling truth, a truth they've carried alone for years. They are not fine. On the outside, they are the person everyone depends on, the quiet strength, the emotional anchor, the one who always seems okay. People admire the way they carry themselves, calm, collected, steady. But what others call strength was never truly strength. It was survival. They didn't choose to become the stable one. They became stable because falling apart never felt like an option. They learned to pick up their own broken pieces before anyone else even noticed the shatter. They learned to hide sadness the way others hide clutter, tucking it away in the darkest corners where no one can see, and the world claps for them. You're so mature. You're so strong. You handle everything so well. But they're not handling it. Not really. They're holding it. Tightly. Silently. Alone. Their life becomes a series of well-practiced emotional tricks. Breathing slowly so their voice won't shake. Laughing softly so no one hears the pain. Smiling just enough to keep people from asking questions. This isn't peace. It's restraint. It's containment. It's self-erasure, packaged as stability. This pattern didn't begin in adulthood. Its roots stretch back to moments so small, they almost look harmless. But the body remembers what the mind forgets. Maybe they grew up around adults who were unpredictable, loving on some days, distant or overwhelmed on others. Maybe they were the child who didn't want to upset anyone, the child who learned to tiptoe, the child who became the emotional sponge for everyone else's storms. Maybe they were told, "Stop crying. Don't be dramatic. You're fine. It's not a big deal." But it was a big deal. It was their heart, their fear, their confusion, their need for comfort. And so the body learned a dangerous lesson. Expressing emotions equals danger. Psychologists call this the fawn response. A survival mechanism where the child stays safe by staying agreeable, calm, easy. But to them, it doesn't feel like theory. It feels like grief, a quiet kind of grief for the child. They weren't allowed to be. They become the peacemaker, the listener, the quiet one, the good one. They learn to shrink their needs to protect the people around them. And somewhere along the way, they internalize a painful belief. Their emotions endanger connection. Their needs risk abandonment. Their truth is too heavy for others to hold. So they stop showing their truth. And eventually, they stop showing themselves. In adulthood, these childhood defenses wear the costume of personality traits. They are described as so strong, so calm, so independent, so emotionally mature. But no one sees how much of that maturity was built on wounds. They struggle to relax, not because they don't want to, but because relaxation leaves them alone with their thoughts. And their thoughts are loud. They struggle to ask for help, because help feels like burden, like risk, like exposure. They struggle with love because love requires vulnerability, and vulnerability feels like standing in a room without walls. Their emotions come out sideways, through overthinking, overworking, over-apologizing, overgiving, Overfunctioning, they show up for others in ways no one has ever shown up for them. They are the friend who listens for hours, but never feels comfortable talking about themselves. They are the partner who accommodates everything, but flinches at the idea of needing something back. They are the coworker who takes on extra tasks because saying no makes their pulse race. They live inside a body that confuses self-neglect with kindness. And late at night, when the world quiets, when people stop asking for pieces of them, their truth surfaces. They feel the loneliness of someone who has never been fully seen. They feel the exhaustion of someone who has held too much for too long. And worst of all, they feel guilty for feeling this way. Healing for someone like them must be gentle. A forceful approach only reinforces the fear that expressing their truth is unsafe. Healing begins not with speaking, but with noticing. Noticing the tightness in their chest when someone asks how they're doing. Noticing the urge to say, "I'm fine," before they even check how they feel. Noticing the heaviness behind their calm. Healing begins with permission. Permission to feel upset without minimizing it. Permission to rest without earning it. Permission to say no without writing a 30-line apology. Permission to exist without performing stability. They may begin by slowing down, by sitting with themselves for just a moment longer than they're comfortable, by asking quietly, "What do I feel right now? What do I need right now?" These questions start unlocking doors that have been sealed for years. Healing may look like finding one safe person, someone who doesn't hear their pain as an inconvenience, someone who doesn't minimize their hurt, someone who doesn't say, "You're strong, you'll be fine," but instead says, "I'm here, tell me." They start to learn that emotions are not explosions. They are messages, signals, truths. They start to learn that love does not require impeccable self-control, that connection does not require self-abandonment. They start to learn that there is a version of themselves who is allowed to be soft, allowed to be messy, allowed to be held. And maybe, for the first time, they let someone see the tremble in their voice. And the world doesn't collapse. They are not broken. They are not fragile. They are not too much. They are simply human. A human who learned to survive by disappearing parts of themselves. Every time they said, "I'm fine," they were protecting a younger version of themselves who never felt safe enough to be honest. But now, things can be different. There is a story waiting ahead where honesty is safer than silence, where love is not earned through perfection, where connection is not maintained through self-erasure. They can reclaim their voice, their needs, their softness, their truth. They can let themselves take up space in their own life, and maybe, gently, slowly, they will finally understand they were worthy of love, even in the moments they were not fine. If this message made sense, a like helps this video reach others who need to hear the same truth. If they want to keep receiving stories like this, they can subscribe to the channel. And if they feel comfortable, they can share in the comments which part touched them the most. Sometimes sharing is the first small step toward healing.